Hello, good afternoon. This is Mrs. Pickett, and we are going to take notes over lesson 1.8. So make sure that you either print out this sheet or that you're just writing this in your notebook. This should be short and sweet, and hopefully it's review. So make sure at the top you put that this is lesson 1.8, and we are going to focus primarily on two-step equations. I do want to do a quick review of one step, which I think most of you should be okay with this. When we are solving equations, remember it is important to know the opposite or inverse. So just so we're clear, if we have an addition problem, the inverse of addition is to subtract. Okay, these are inverses back and forth. And then multiplication and division are inverses. They undo each other. Okay, so just make sure that you know that. I know I wrote over that problem, but we're not going to do that one, so it's okay. So, like if we look at number one, just a quick, here's what I would tell you to do. I always teach my kids to do a T-chart. So you're going to find your equal sign, and you're going to draw a line right down where the equal sign is. Your equations are going to be balanced. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side. You're going to locate your variable. That's the side that we're going to work on. The variable always stays in the same spot because we want to solve for it. We need to know what m is equal to. So now if you look, we had plus 12, so we were adding 12. I want to do the opposite of addition, and we can see down here, okay, that if it was addition, the opposite is to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides, because whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other side. And so see how we now made that like T-chart, little T-table? Opposites always cancel out. So plus 12 minus 12, that cancels out to 0. The only thing that's left on this side would be our m, so you bring that down. M is equal, the equal sign always stays right in the middle. And now we have 10 minus 12, which is going to give us a negative 2, and that would be our answer. M equals negative 2. Okay? If we look at, let's look at number 4 here. I'm going to move this over a little bit. So if we look at number 4, same thing, separate your equation into two sides. Identify your variable. So now we have a divided by 9. And if we look over here, we know that if it's division, division is the opposite or the inverse of multiplication. So that's what we use to solve that. So since I was dividing, now I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to put a little dot there for times. I'm going to multiply both sides by 9. Since multiplication and division are inverses, they are going to cancel out. So the only thing that's going to be left is a equals, and now we would multiply negative 4 times 9 and get negative 36. Okay? Hopefully this is review, but just a little basic. We're going to jump down now to the two-step equations. Oh, you know what? I'm actually going to, I'll show you that. We can do it this way. Let me simplify. Just move this down. All right. Right here. So before we get to the two steps, we need to do fractions. I almost forgot. So if you have a fraction like in numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8, so we have fractions, right? We have this 2/3 or 4/9, negative 6/5, negative 1/2. To remove a fraction from an equation, you are going to multiply by the reciprocal. Hopefully you guys remember what that means. The reciprocal is when you flip it. Okay, so we can put a little star here and actually write it. Flip it, because that usually helps you remember it. So if we do number 5, all right, when we go to solve this one, so right now it's negative 6/5 k is equal to 12. So if I want to get rid of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by negative 5 over 6. Over here, I'm going to multiply by negative 5 over 6. Now, when you multiply by a reciprocal, here's what's going to happen. This is really cool. This is going to cancel out because the negative 5, and the 6 and 6, they cancel each other out. And so on this side, we're just left with our k equals. Over here, remember, we need to make 12 a fraction, so we're going to put it over 1. And then we can cross cancel. So simplify things out, all right? And so if we look, 12 12 and 6, 6 will go into itself one time, 6 will go into 12 twice. So now we're going to multiply straight across. 2 times negative 5 gives me a negative 10. On the bottom is 1 times 1. And we could simplify that just to say that k equals negative 10. Okay? So don't be afraid of the fractions. It's real easy. You're just going to multiply by the reciprocal and then cross cancel if you see one. Okay? All right. Let's look at our two-step equations here. So to solve a two-step equation, first step is you're going to undo addition or subtraction. So we have to move the constant term, okay? Then we'll undo multiplication or division to remove the coefficient. So remember, constant, that's a term that has no variables. And then the coefficient is the number that's in front of the variable, just so you keep that in mind. All right, so we are going to set up our little t-chart here. I'm going to identify where my variable is. So in this case, the constant is 8. 8 does not have a variable. And 6 is your coefficient. So I will need to move the 8 to the other side first. So since it was being added, I am going to subtract 8 from both sides. And so we have 6x is equal to, now we have 50 minus 8, which is going to give us how much? Hopefully we know, 42. Okay. So now we have 6x equals 42, and we're going to divide, because 6x means multiplication. So now the opposite that, we're going to divide both sides by 6. And so we would get that x equals 7. And we are done. Okay. Let's look at number 10. Always set up your, divide your equation so you don't mess up. Find where your variable is. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of the minus 5. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And now I have 2n is equal to 11 plus 5 is going to give us 16. And now we're going to divide by 2. And we will get that n equals 8. Okay, pretty easy. Hopefully this is review. Let's try a few more here. Maybe. Okay, for number 11, my pen wasn't working. Now it is. Divide your equation. Now notice this one, the variable is on the other side, but that's okay. We're still going to do it the same way. So now I have negative 4k plus 9. So I'm going to subtract 9. Get rid of that constant first. Opposites cancel out. So now on this side I have negative 4k equals 13 minus 9 is going to give us 4. And now I'm going to divide by negative 4. Opposites cancel. And so we would get that k is equal to a negative 1, because 4 divided by negative 4 gives us a negative 1. All right, let's do one last one here. Let me erase that so we can see. All right, so you're going to divide your equation. And this is how your work's going to look when you're doing work in my class tomorrow and the rest of the year, okay? We're going to identify where our variable is. Now this one, I have 7. Remember, we always look at the number or the sign that's in front of the number. Well, 7 doesn't have anything in front of it, but we know that 7 is positive, which would be like a plus sign. So in order to solve this one, we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. Opposites cancel. Now I have negative 3y. Make sure you remember to bring that negative sign down because it's in front of the 3. And that's going to be equal to 34 minus 7, which is going to give us 27. We're going to divide by negative 3. And so we get that y is equal to negative 9. Okay? That's pretty much it for two-step equations. I do want to show you a couple problems that doesn't always follow the rules. All right? So I'm going to switch pages here. So right here, I want to do a couple examples. These examples are different because normally we always do addition, subtraction first, except when it's written like this. In this case, you have to undo the multiplication or division first and then do the addition, subtraction. So hopefully you see what is happening here. We have this fraction bar. Anytime you have an equation with the fraction bar like this, you're going to have to do it opposite, okay? So you still set up the same thing. So we're still going to divide our equation at the equal sign. But now I have to get rid of that denominator. So in order to solve this, I need to do, since it was being divided by 8, I need to multiply both sides by 8. And that's going to cancel those out, so now I have x plus 11 is equal to negative 24. Now I can solve it, all right? Now it's just a simple one-step equation. Since I was adding 11, I'm going to subtract it, because we always do the opposite or the inverse. That cancels out, x equals, now negative 24 minus 11 means you actually add them together, since they're both negative, and that would give me x equals negative 35, okay? On this one, try one more here. Same thing. I'm going to multiply by negative 2 on both sides. The negative 2's are going to cancel out. That'll leave n minus 5 is equal to negative 7 times negative 2 is going to give me a positive 14. And now to finish this off, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Those will cancel out. N equals 14 plus 5 is 19. Okay? What I would like you to do for your flip grid tonight is I want you to answer either 21 or 22. So it's solving a two-step with just a little bit more complication. So pick one of these two, 21 or 22, and answer your flip grid question for me, and then I will see you in class tomorrow. All right? Have a great night, everyone.